Hello everybody. I'd like to make a few obvious remarks about COVID-19 and the pandemic situation as a microbiologist and an ex-FDA regulator. First, epidemics are a sort of natural disaster. You've got your floods, you've got your floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, forest fires, and your epidemics. I mean, they're even listed in the four horsemen of the apocalypse: war, famine, pestilence, and death. So that's part of the human condition. Infectious agents, we've had them for centuries. There are certain specific microorganisms and viruses that are particular to the human species. The epidemics of the past tend to be things like Yersinia pestis, bubonic plague, Black Death, which killed about half of Europe in the year 1348 and subsequently. And that's pretty bad. Cholera in India over and over again. Smallpox, measles, typhus, and more recently influenza, and there's history to these. The Justinian plague and the Antonine plague of Rome, which lasted a decade and a half, and there were smallpox and measles. Emperor Marcus Aurelius valiantly led the public health effort, and after a number of years died of, I think it was smallpox in that particular case. The Greeks, the noble nation state of Athens, went to war, or rather war was brought to them by the Spartans. Remember the 300, "This is Sparta!" Yeah, well, they were the troublemakers. And Athens, bringing in all soldiers from other colonies and refugees coming in, and soldiers coming into the city, and at close quarters they brought in typhus, and that was sort of the end of their nation state as a dominant power in the eastern end of the Mediterranean, because of the effects of that particular plague. So we've had them. You've heard of the Spanish flu of 1918, the last big pandemic, but if you're paying attention, sure, there was HIV, there's hepatitis B has been a problem, hepatitis C was a new one that popped up. What else have we had? HTLV3, SARS, MERS, West Nile virus. West Nile and Zika are both mosquito-borne, so it's a different mode of transmission, a different way to fight the plague, those particular epidemics, those particular infectious agents. But the person-to-person contact, those are the rough ones, because they get right in among us, social creatures living closely as we are. You might even think, just in a sort of general overall analysis, that the more the human race or specific cultures are successful, that is, they move from agricultural to having cities, concentrations of people, and start trading with foreign powers. You get contacts with the rest of the world and high population density, and you're going to get an infectious agent in there and get a plague one way or another. The mild ones you suffer through. The bad ones try to kill you, and often do. So it's history. People roll their eyes at coronavirus, and they're really being counterproductive idiots. Yeah, if you're young, yeah, maybe you won't notice that you've gotten it, or it won't be that bad. But you may kill some older people like me, ha ha ha, Yes, I'm an old man, I'm 65. What should I wish that you never live to grow old? It's going to come to everybody. And I'm still kicking, so let's all be nice to one another. I've gotten some feedback, actually, which shows from trolls on YouTube that show real antipathy toward other people. Particularly, I said, hey, this is the same thing. Buddy, stop saying COVID-19 is a hoax. I know about these things, and it's real, and it'll do harm. He says, well, if you're right, then the protesters will spread it amongst themselves. Ha, ha, ha. And that's, you want to punch a person like that in the throat and see if it wakes them up. Ha, ha, ha. There's a lot of real snottiness out there. And of course, we have leadership that has failed miserably, intentionally. I mean, the president is playing this to get it reelected. I mean, and also, of course, once he discovered that it's going to be the poor who suffer disproportionately, he eased back on the controls. It's all really unkind and also very stupid. But vaccines, my God, a good book to read, Microbe Hunters. It's about 50 years old or more, actually, and it's a little emotional in tone, over emotional, but it's quite an entertaining read. It tells you about Leeuwenhoek and Spallanzani, the early microbiologists, Louis Pasteur and anthrax, Emil Koch and diphtheria, Walter Reed and yellow fever, some of the early people who put it together and devised the first vaccines. I'll talk about anti-vaxxers another time. A badly made vaccine can do damage, but that's why there's so much testing and care in making them, and oversight and quality control. I've been vaccinated for a number of things, and I'm quite happy about it. Smallpox, I had mumps, the disease. I had German measles, the disease. Didn't kill me. Measles, I don't recall. But I've had the flu, I've had hepatitis B, hepatitis A. I love them. Make me resistant to this nasty disease. Give me a shot. My arm's a little bit sore, and I'm good to go. I can walk through the valley of death. And there are vaccines that are unnecessary, and some, was it rotavirus, respiratory syncytial virus? One of them had an unexpected side effect of scar tissue in the bowel. Yeah, that's true. I mean, don't take new medicines if you can help it. Take the old proven ones. But, yeah, epidemics are real. Public health is necessary. And they're different. Smallpox gets on the skin. Why is that? Well, it's a crossover, a zoonotic crossover from cattle, domesticated cattle. What about that? Well, they're large herd animals that jostle among themselves while they feed, and that's how a virus can most easily be transmitted from one animal to the next. It's wiping off of a sore under the hide of the next animal. So those are your pox viruses. Then there's the viruses of flying creatures, where you have to, for the virus to spread efficiently, it has to be distributed as an aerosol, and then some other creature passes through its flight path and picks up the aerosol. That's your flu from birds. That's your the COVIDs from bats, flying creatures, and related to us as mammals. So there's some room for crossover, and it's happened. Cholera, bacterial infection, and polio, another virus. It's fecal oral. It gets in the bowel. You crap it out. It gets into the water supply. Someone else takes it in. Swimming pools used to be banned back in the 50s. If you want to know, that's an epidemic I forgot to mention. That's an epidemic I forgot to mention. Is polio in America. Look it up. About 7 out of 10 people didn't realize they'd even had it, and they just spread it. And it went, like 1 in, or 2 or 3 in 100 were paralyzed for life. Had to put them in iron lungs, these breathing machines. So it's not that long. I remember getting the Salk oral polio vaccine when I was a kid. After school, we all went to the nearest, it was Alice Deal or Woodrow Wilson High, Alice Deal Junior High or Woodrow Wilson High, I don't remember which, probably Wilson, and stood in line, and I got the sugar cube. The doctor, middle-aged guy, pulling out the Letterly vaccine, and I forget, I think it was plastic tubes. They were thawing. There was a frozen, live, attenuated vaccine. Squirted on a sugar cube, popped it in my mouth. Get out of here. Just tasted like sugar. And I was vaccinated for polio. And look, I can use all my limbs.